And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry, and we're going to be discussing Invincible, episode number 7, titled We Need to Talk. Could have been titled Cecil versus Omni-Man, honestly. Hell of an episode. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. I think there's only one more of these episodes left. And then we do all kind of other content on the channel, so, check that out. We got a Falcon Winter Soldier season review coming up. And, yeah, man, the brilliance of this episode... we're going to get into all the details, but basically the whole premise is a father trying to get to his son. That's it. That's literally the framework of this episode. And yet it's so intense and disturbing at times. The world is watching. This is almost, it feels like an apocalyptic event is taking place. And yet, like I said, the framing is simply a father trying to get to his son. It's brilliant. And by the ending, when the last line of dialogue, in fact, is the name of the episode, we need to talk. Perfect. They didn't have the end credit thing like they typically do. We just cut. Hell of an episode. Obviously, it's leading into the finale. Larry, initial thoughts. How did you feel about episode 7 of Invincible?
Oh yeah, that's a perfect description of it. It's such a simple thing. Like you said, it's just a father trying to talk to his son. And at that, it takes place in the middle of nowhere, and yet it feels, like you said, like a big apocalyptic event because the scale of everything that's happening is just so epic as well. And, there's so much confusion and it's very tense. It's like you don't know, like even having read the book, well into the point of, everything that's happening here. It still had me at the edge of my seat. It was such a big thing and so well handled, and just the small changes they made. Just the scale was incredible. Like once again, Invincible is the best thing I've watched this week, as it has been every week since it aired.
It's just so good. The episode, we'll stay on that. So Debbie is gone now. She's with Cecil, and she has completely understands that, okay, Nolan, in fact, did killed the Guardians of the Globe. She doesn't understand why. She's very disturbed by it. He clearly has a reason that he did it, and he desperately sort of wants to tell her, but he won't. He wants to see Mark now. Cecil is like, yeah, we need to see Mark too, because he's probably the only thing that can kill Nolan, and that's sort of where he's at now. That disturbs the hell out of Debbie, but that's sort of the dynamic here. He wants to get to Mark. We don't completely know why. He's not telling us. And Cecil wants Mark because it may be the only way to stop Nolan, because he's tried everything else, and we'll go through everything he tries here in a moment. But your thoughts on Debbie's situation? Like, what do you do in that scenario? And it's amazing because it's animated, but the emotion in the face and the way it's animated is so well done.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like Debbie's whole scenario is much more interesting here because, when we get to that point in the book and, she confronts him about things, he responds in a much, much crueler way in the book. But, it seems very much so it seems very much in the show that he's really trying to make things work and he wants them to understand, but he's doing a poor job of explaining things. And not only that, but he's put Debbie in a place where they realize they're not, because I don't think he realizes that she's with Cecil. Because, he's doing things like he killed those guys and he points the camera to their organs and everything, like exposed organs to gross them out. Like, I don't think he realizes that his wife's seeing all this, that she's in the control room there with him.
Yeah, I don't think he does either. I'm going to run through all of those, and then we can talk about whatever you want. So initially, there's the agents in his home. He dispatches them quickly. Fucking Donald, dude.
Yeah, Donald.
Donald is dead. He sacrifices himself to try and slow down Omni-Man. Doesn't even scratch him. And Cecil was a little surprised. Like he's trying to gauge his strength. And he's like, well, shit, didn't do nothing. We have the space cannon, which gives him a bloody nose. He references it as the most expensive bloody nose
in the world. Yeah.
In the world. Reaniman make an appearance.
Yeah.
And they are a decent fight, which goes back to what was established with Mark, exactly. And then we have Cecil just talking, just wanting to have a conversation with him, which was a well done scene. And then finally, Hail Mary, the kaiju, that they remove its nerve or its pain receptors and pump it full of drugs. Mark gets to him at this point, and it becomes a father-son battle with it. And then the final thing, I guess I'll say it, and then we'll go because we got a lot to say about Rudy. The fucking Immortal returns.
Yeah.
And what a fight that turns out to be. But any one of those things in particular you want to highlight or go into?
Well, just the Immortal and those flashbacks, because I mean, I think people watching the show, people who haven't read the comic, are probably a little bit confused there at the moment, because you flash back to clearly what are past lives, and then at one point you see Abraham Lincoln, and it's like, yeah, the Immortal was Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
He's basically the Invincible universe version of God, what is his name from DC? Vandal
Savage?
Yeah, Vandal Savage. Yeah,
yeah, he is exactly that. Yeah,
and it's the Immortal's back, very much living up to his name, and Mark's just got to be very confused because he thought, okay, the Earth's under attack by these creatures, and like my dad's Omni-Man, so he's just doing his usual, but then the Immortal shows up. And the Immortal is fighting them. So, like my question is right now, like, what's running through Mark's head?
Well, what's great about it is Mark is confused, but the news is broadcasting it at this point.
Yeah.
So we have the entire world, and we get shots of people all over. Like, okay, the Immortal is dead. The Guardians of the Globe are dead, and yet there he is. Why is Omni-Man fighting him? And then Omni-Man brutally, it's a bloody finale, where he takes him out. The world is confused. They're like, what the fuck is going on?
Right? Yeah. Yeah. No one seems to know what's going on here. Like, heck, even the Guardians of the Globe are completely confused because
I love that.
Yeah, they're there assuming that they're on standby to help Omni-Man, that Omni-Man's having a tough time. Like, and then they realize, oh God, we may have to fight Omni-Man. Like, is Omni-Man the bad guy?
Isn't Rex explodes like, oh fuck, like,
yeah, right?
It's like, what are we gonna do? And in that moment where they realize, oh shit, I guess he's the one that killed the Guardians. Like, they figured it out right in that moment. Like,
so it's this big long brawl. Like a big chunk of the episode is a brawl, but so much is happening, in that moment. We have so many different sides. And like I said, it's very much Cecil versus Omni-Man. And I think the audience gets a good idea that Cecil can be a threat to a character on the level of Omni-Man. Which kudos to him for the scene where he's actually there with using the teleporter, trying to buy time and everything. Just holding them off. Like, because that was that's a bold move for Cecil, being very much mortal and having no superpowers. He has resources, but Cecil doesn't have power. Cecil is just a guy.
any mistake or miscalculation of Nolan's movement, and he's dead.
And he's dead, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's there, Nick Fury. So showing up there himself, he didn't necessarily have to do that. He could have risked a staff member, but he did it himself.
The other half of the episode, half of it's the Omni-Man stuff, and then and Cecil, and the secondary half is we finally get the robot revelation. Like, we get it all out there. Robot is in fact a guy named Rudolph Connors, goes by Rudy. He was born, and he's got all kind of issues, and he can't breathe air, and he's in this tank, but he's the most intelligent person ever to ever live. And so he's using these robots and things to do his bidding, but he proves that he does in fact embrace the idea of, I guess, justice, if you will. But he's using the Mauler twins because he needs a clone body. He needs a body. And he chose Rexplode because Monster Girl seems attracted to Rexplode. So he's like, I want to make a kid version of Rexplode. I'll put my consciousness in that, and I'll continue to be the leader of the Guardians of the Globe, simply because he feels a connection with Monster Girl. All the stuff with the Mauler twins is great, and they're the ones that end up bringing back the Immortal. There's a nice scene after the transfer when they put his consciousness in well, I guess we'll just call it Rudy now, where the clones have that bonding moment. I don't know if you know where the Mauler twins are like, yeah, this is how it is, and then he decides, he's going to kill the other one, but he doesn't want to, and he starts crying. I don't know. It was strangely touching.
Yeah.
The way it was, it was this sort of Frankenstein science-y shit, but I'm like, I genuinely felt the emotion in that scene.
Yeah, exactly. He wanted this life he couldn't have, but he's just sort of, I guess, in a way, experiencing it through his clone. But he it's a weird sacrifice to make, and there's a lot of moral questions about Robot at this point, given just everything that's tied into this. Just the whole aspect with Monster Girl, the fact that he took a DNA sample of Rexplode and decided to clone himself as a kid version of Rexplode, and he's like a 30-something-year-old man who should know better than to do most of what he's doing, but also he's just lived this very painful life in which he's literally in a jar, just experiencing pain constantly.
It's so just weird, and Rexplode points this out on many levels because he's like, it's weird that Monster Girl is an adult; she just looks like a child. But
Yeah.
And so is Rudy. He's an adult. He looks like a child, but there's a weirdness in terms of the attractions because
Yeah.
they're these physically they're children, and it gets weird. The dynamic is weird. Rexplode even's like, what the fuck? This is some weird shit. I don't know. He didn't even know how to address it. He's like, oh god, it's sort of gross. But Rudy is someone who's never had physical contact, and there's that scene where Monster Girl grabs his hand, and that was to me very symbolic of, okay, that was his goal. That's what he was wanting. That's what he needed. But you're right, the level of manipulation, all the crazy, and then he betrayed the Mauler twins. He planned to send them back to prison.
Yeah.
So he's basically just out to do what he wants to do. It seems like he has good intentions, but there's a lot of morality questions about Rudy.
Yeah, he's willing to clearly cross some lines to get the things that he wants, and like you mentioned about Rexplode's comment on all these things. It's like, well, for once, it felt like he was the voice of the audience in that moment. It's just where you're just like, what the hell? Like, all this for that, and like, did you not consider the ethical implications? Because I mean, everybody, like, they're in the middle of a crisis, but the biggest crisis they could possibly be in the middle of. But what he did was so unnerving that everybody is still very much like, you did what? As Omni-Man, the most powerful being they know of, is seemingly discovered to be the enemy, and potentially someone they might do battle with. Like, they're in the biggest crisis of their lives, and this is still so odd and messed up that it's it kind of throws the team off.
It's just amazing that he made the decision to be completely honest about it.
Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, this is what I did and why.
He could have just said, I'm this boy genius, I'm Rudolph Connor's boy genius, and lied about the whole thing, and it would have been less unnerving, But then again, he chose Rex, so something was clearly up. He's a clone of Rex.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But he could have lied about it. He could have made it, but he saw so little wrong with any of what he was doing that he just came out and said it, and when they asked, like, you just expect us all to be okay with this? He was just kind of, his response was just basically, yeah, I expect you to accept it.
Yeah, it definitely shows in the comics. This character has a hell of a lot of story arcs, but Rudy is he does have emotion and he does feel, but there's a cold. I don't want to use the word coldness, but the way he views things is very much not typically not normal.
He's very much the type of person who, like, and he's very smart, and sometimes he is right about things, but he just kind of seems to expect people to go with the flow, because he's like, I'm the smart guy, I know better.
Yes. Yeah, actually. So it's almost a Lex Luthor-ish, but without the corporate greed mentality.
Yeah, if Lex Luthor was legitimately trying to be a good guy, but still thought of himself as better than you.
Yeah. Um, we have the Mark, Amber, Eve dynamic finally sort of kicking in, where we learn that Amber didn't break up with Mark because she thought he abandoned her. She broke up with him because he lied. She knew that he was a hero. She had figured it out long ago. And at the moment of truth, when he has to, get into action to save everyone, she assumed that would be, I guess, the moment he would reveal the truth to her, but he didn't, and he kept it from her. And that's what's pissed her off. And so she basically is like, "Look, I'm done. I'm angry. You lied. It's over." Um, in terms of how I don't know how to feel about that as far as a viewer, because it's weird in a world where there's superhero. Because like, even Mark argues, he's like, "I have a secret identity. I can't just share it." But then it makes sense if you're in a relationship with someone that maybe you would give it to them. But I don't because it's a superhero world. It's hard to sort of gauge the relationship angle. I don't. How did you feel about Amber rejecting him because of the lie?
Yeah, I didn't like that. Like if they had been dating for 2 years or something, I get it, but I get 5 months is a long time, and some people get married after 5 or 6 months, even. But I feel that's a little early. For that kind of thing, especially given what's going on, the fact that she figured it out. It's like, okay, well then he was in the hospital because when he was in the hospital, he was in the hospital because he got injured, and then there's the whole Guardians of the Globe thing that happened that, Amber wasn't really being understanding of his situation. She just expected to be told this kind of thing. Like, now, I'm just saying, imagine if just the way people date. I mean, heck, the way I date, it's just like if every 5 months or a couple of years you're telling someone your secret identity. Now there's a ton of people that know your secret identity, and it's not exactly secret anymore.
True.
So
Absolutely fair point. Yeah, that's why I said it's hard to, because they're also high schoolers and they're teenagers, and I'm trying to wrap my head around how am I angry at her or am I not? You know what I mean? Because it's like I'm trying to give her a little wiggle room because of that, but at the same time, you're in a world of superheroes where that is a thing, in their world. Secret identities would be important, and
hmm
for her not to get that is weird, since it's such a common thing.
well, yeah, but you're right. You're right about one thing. It still makes sense because uh, but they position this character to be a very sort of mature character, so it feels odd for that reason because she's getting mad at him for doing what is technically the mature thing and not just telling everyone that he dates his secret identity, that he's invincible, which puts himself in danger, which puts others in danger, his family and whatnot. Anytime he does that, it's a pretty big responsibility.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, he does seek out Eve immediately, to sort of, talk about what happened. Hint, hint. I'm not gonna dance around it. Yes, clearly, Mark and Eve, there's something there. um, where it's gonna go, how it's gonna develop, especially now with the way the events of the end of this episode. I am interested to see how the show progresses. I like the shot of Amber seeing the events take place she's one of the viewers who around the world who's watching all this shit go down. She looked legitimately concerned. So is she going to reach out to Mark after all this? Or, we still haven't gotten officially a greenlit second season, which is making me really upset. Because
It better be.
this show, I mean, anyone who's not read the comics, this literally what this season is just would just be like a prologue. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like the real shit starts after this story, and I'm just like, come on, we gotta get us another season.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is the beginning of the show. Like everything that's happening in this, and likely everything that's going to happen in the next episode. Like you said, it's basically a prologue. It seems big, it seems epic, but there's so much more that happens in Invincible. And for this show to not be renewed, especially given the quality, I would be very disappointed. 'Cause like I said, it's one of the best things we're watching on TV right now.
It's definitely one of the best. Just double check. I'm trying to see, make sure it is 8. I think it's only 8 episodes. Yeah, so next week will be it. Man, I hope they renew it. I like I said, we've been praising this the whole time. There's just never anything I don't like about this show. Even I even like the little nod when his friend, was it William? He's sitting there and Omni-Man. That how intense was that scene?
Yeah, right.
When Omni-Man approaches his car, he knows the truth. Oh, it's Nolan's dad, but he seems very agitated. What's going on? Is he going to kill William? He's asked, "Where's Mark?" He's very firm about it. We just saw him do a bunch of horrible shit right before that. It's a very tense scene, and I also like the fact that William's like, he never realized that Nolan was Omni-Man. And it's funny because there's nothing he does. He doesn't take his glasses off. There's no aspect of him disguising his face. He literally just puts on a costume, same face, same everything. Nobody, William didn't know. It would make sense for the world in general not to know because he's not a public figure, like a Bruce Wayne or something. But someone who sees him every single day, or when he goes to hang out with his friend, it is odd that he wouldn't realize it. But I like the little nod to that.
Yeah, and he should figure that out quicker than he figured out Mark's identity, because at least Mark's wearing a mask.
Exactly.
So it is a little surprising, but like you said, that was a good moment. There's a lot of good character moments in this show, and that's just one of the things that they do best. But yeah, it's just like, and Nolan, he seems very very careful about those relationships and things. Just like even William, like it seemed like he realized, like, well, I can't hurt William, otherwise Mark will never come around. So to whatever it is that I'm trying to do here, sorry about the city noise. That's like, but yeah, it's like Nolan seemed very careful about that, and like whatever's going on with him, like clearly these people, he wants to maintain something with his family and potentially even this community. Well, I don't think the community matters as much as him as his family, but it's clear through these interactions with people like William that his family still does matter to him to some degree, their opinions and things.
I like the line where Cecil is basically telling him that it broke his heart.
Yeah.
There's a great line because Cecil's like, we've been friends for 20 years. He legitimately felt that Nolan was someone he could confide in and was close to him, that he could count on whenever he needed something done. Remember, whenever any space shit went down, whether it was Alan or asteroid or whatever, Nolan's the one they sent. Yeah. Nolan was their go-to guy, and the fact that he's betraying them and Cecil can't figure out why. I like that they're actually playing that Cecil is legitimately part of their family. Debbie knows him, that the way in which they interact is like it's like a cousin, a brother, or an uncle. You know what I mean? Like there's a dynamic to the family, and Cecil's part of it.
Yeah, 100%. And it's one of those things where Cecil would be hurt more than anybody to some degree with this, because Cecil. Well, we've mentioned him being a Nick Fury type character. Yeah, he's very much that, and he's very paranoid, and he tends to come up with contingencies for everything. So for Cecil to trust anyone, that's a huge deal. And then for him to find out that he was being fooled for 20 years. That, like you said, there's this 20-year relationship in which he's being bamboozled. That's rough for a character like Cecil, because he rarely trusts.
Yeah, and we had a similar scene in last week's episode with what was it, Art, the guy that makes the costumes, where he knew the truth. He was scared, but then for a moment, when they had a couple beers on the top of the building, for a moment you could tell he sort of forgot, and they were enjoying themselves, and then he remembered. He kept going back and forth, and so like, oh shit, this is a killer. But it shows you that Nolan, that his family is legitimately there's actual relationships, and it's not just that's the thing I love about the show. We've talked about it like several episodes back about how Debbie's written, and just how Mark interacts with his parents, and it's as much of a family drama as it is a superhero series, and that's what works.
Absolutely, and it's one of those things that it's like those relationships are done so well, and like Nolan is clearly close with his family and everything. He's not like a distant father and husband or anything. It's like especially the way he reacted in this episode to certain things, and the expressions you saw on his face, just sort of pained and everything. You kind of got to ask the question as well, as a viewer, like, is Nolan afraid of something? Is there like, why is he taking this course of action that it seems like he doesn't want to do this, or he doesn't want to actually hurt his family, but as far as he killed the original Guardians of the Globe, so it's like, what's his reasoning behind that? Which is the central focus of the show right now, and I'm certainly will have some answers to that. Episode 8.
Two quick little notes, and then if there's anything else you want to say, we can wrap this up. One, I love when he fought the Immortal and he gouged his eyes, and Nolan's eyes were like bloodshot.
Yeah,
it was a really great image. And then two, we side note, it was mentioned briefly, but Black Samson does in fact have his powers back.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts or anything else you want to say about this episode of Invincible?
Well, you mentioned those two characters, but one other one I'm surprised we haven't gotten in this season, and I guess we'll be getting next season. Given the sort of cameo of their costume, is because you mentioned Black Samson and you mentioned the Immortal, and it just made me think of this other powerhouse character that's not in the show. We don't have Bulletproof in this show, and Bulletproof was there kind of as early on as they were.
Yeah, they definitely have reordered certain things in the show. Like I said, Debbie has more screen time than she did in the comic. As a matter of fact, the events of this episode, I don't think are 100% accurate to the comic.
Oh, they're not.
Yeah. So I was trying to remember. I was like, I don't think that's how it went down.
Well, yeah, a lot of these things were revealed and happened, but this fight, the way it's happening, that didn't happen. Like, as far as the Reaniman showing up and everything, that was I think that was a few volumes later. Like, some of these reveals happened, and the fact is, like, Mark was very much, I believe, in the dark about Cecil collecting these things, and it became a big dramatic thing later. But even with them shifting the timescales a little bit and having some of these things happen earlier, even if they continue to do that, like you said, there's so much in Invincible. There's so much that happens. We still got 5 or 6 seasons, easily.
Yeah, and like you mentioning Bulletproof, it's one of those. I think it's a big enough character to where it's like it could almost be its own thing.
Season 2.
So you're really trying to build Mark in this season, and what's great about the comic for anyone listening to this who hasn't read it. Yes, Mark is the star, but there's so many story arcs where he's not.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like the way the book is written is there's a lot of things that happened around him, and we'll go off on these side stories and other characters, and yes, he's always a central theme throughout the entire run, but no, it's a universe, and there's a lot of other characters that are at times as big and have as much time on the page as even Mark does.
Yeah, absolutely. And for one of those arcs, like I thought it was weird that they left Bulletproof off, and until I sort of got a feel for the pacing of the show, and then I thought to myself, like, yeah, season 2 they'll probably introduce him. In fact, we may start with this character. We'll get the conversation, and how we usually have the lead in with Mark's name and everything.
I love that.
And they're like, of course he's fine. Yeah. He's, and then they show the title Invincible. We'll get that, and but instead of Invincible, it'll say Bulletproof, and it'll throw everybody else off.
But yeah, I'm just waiting for that announcement. I've been checking. I'm like, come on, guys. And I just need the confirmation. That's all.
That's what I want.
We're at 1 episode out and they haven't given it. Because when The Boys was hitting big, they were like, yeah, we're fucking doing 2 seasons. Like, they were already greenlighting into, multiple seasons. I haven't heard anything about this yet. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's too good to leave it where, I mean, because we've got one episode. There's so much in Invincible, and there's only so much you can wrap up.
And I don't 100% know how the episode will end. That's sort of the interesting thing. I because I'm like, all right, I know sort of what should happen, but then what? There's going to be no follow up. So I'm like, oh my god, what is the final scene?
Right.
I don't know how they're going to end the season. Is it going to be a complete cliffhanger? Or are they going to? I don't see how it couldn't be, to be honest.
Yeah, there's no way you can do this without it being a cliffhanger, because the events are too big.
But yeah, anything else about Invincible episode 7?
Nothing. I have nothing else to say. It's just the show left me, like I said, on the edge of my seat, completely silent. For once, I have a very busy schedule, and sometimes I'm watching these things and I'm doing other stuff, and like cooking a meal or eating something. I just stopped everything and watched this episode because it was, so tense. And I rarely do that. There's very few shows that I do that for. I do that for Snowfall on occasion, and I used to do that during Breaking Bad. And I just think that speaks to the quality of the show.
Yeah, I could see rewatching this whole season.
Yeah,
as soon as it's over. Yeah, it's one of those. But yeah, we appreciate everyone listening. We will definitely be doing that review for the finale of Invincible. Like I said, we're going to have a Falcon Winter Soldier season review. The Snowfall season review is up. Check it out. City on a Hill this week. Mayor of Easttown, new episodes going up in a day. And then we always check out our Big Sky reviews. We appreciate everyone listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Sam.